I saw this guy on YouTube literally probably 2 years ago, and I've been following him ever since then. And when I reached out to him to come on with me the first time, he was kind enough to do it. And so before I bring him on, his name is Marty Ray, and his if you're trying to find him on YouTube or Facebook, it's the Marty Ray Project. He's a songwriter, entertainer. He's been involved in movies. He's got over 500,000 folks following him on YouTube, another 500,000 following him on Facebook. He's a great dude. A buddy of mine named Dan Manager. He owns a company here in Chattanooga called Granite Garage Floors, and he's been kind enough to help sponsor most all my conversations over the last couple of months. 423-592-3131, Dan Manager. Now, with all that being said, nobody really cares about me that much on any of my conversations because I bring on cool people. And with you don't get much cooler than this guy right here, Marty Ray. What's up, man?
What's up, brother?
How you doing? I'm good.
Doing well.
Yeah, last time when I asked you to come on, it was one of those, I was throwing something against the wall. I thought, you know what? I follow this guy. I listen to him. You never know. And when you said yes, I got nervous, man. I got papers around me with questions. And then I talked to you and I realized, hey, you're just a normal dude.
Yeah, man. I ain't nobody. I'm just nobody trying to tell everybody about Jesus. You know what I mean? That's all like that song says. That's all I'm doing.
Speaking of, and I do have some stuff we're going to go over because your world's changed like everybody's has in 2020. Speaking of the song Wayfinder, you posted that recently or something, and you did a cover of it. You sang it. I sang that.
I lost you.
Oh, I was talking about Wayfinder, the song.
Oh, okay. Waymaker.
A Waymaker. I'm sorry. The Waymaker.
Speaking of Waymaker, what?
I sent it to my mom, who is my prayer warrior. And I don't think if people listen to you, if they just listen to one of your covers like Simple Man or something like that, they may not realize how big of an impact gospel music and God has had on your career. I mean, that's your whole drive, isn't it?
I think they feel that. I think that's what the draw is, really. You want to know the truth. It's not me, it's him. And I because even when I'm singing those songs, it's still his gift that he gave me, and they feel something. They always say things like they feel something special that they can't explain. And I always tell them, I say, hey, that ain't me. That's Jesus, man. I promise you, it ain't me. Even though it's a cover, there's people that have said they listen to Ice Ice Baby and they cry sometimes. And that's not me, is what I'm saying. I have nothing to do with that.
Well, me and you were talking before we came on. There's a couple of your originals over the last few months, because I can't see family as much as I used to, that have hit me pretty hard. So if you're watching this video now or down the road and you want some great covers, go check out his stuff, but also check out his originals, because he does great originals. The ones I was talking about is Miss You Like Crazy and Bare Feet, especially Bare Feet. If you want something that move you, go listen to Bare Feet. But you posted something about, do people really like original music anymore? Was that a rhetorical question? Are you serious? Or do you feel a disconnect between people liking original music?
When you put titles on YouTube videos, it's really just to get people's attention.
Okay.
But the truth in that question, in that title, is that the truth is that people, even my fans, a lot of my fans some of them don't even know that I have original music. And so that always bothers me, because some of them don't. I'm still thankful that they are fans of the covers, but at least I wish they would at least go and search and find an original song and see if you like it. If you don't, fine, but at least give it a shot. That's something that a lot of people don't do unless they're inundated with it from a record label on the radio and in every store they go to and in every movie, and they have to be inundated with it, and then they think, whoa, I can't think I like this song. So some people are that way, and some people look specifically for the original music. So it's just but it is, for the most part, people do not give original music a shot unless it gets a legs in it.
Yeah.
So that question, while I don't care either way, whatever they like in me, I would prefer people to at least go listen to the original music and see if they like it first, before they just say, well, I don't like his originals, but I love his covers. And that's okay if they do only like the covers, but don't say it before you listen to the
Listen.
originals.
Well, the cover is what brought me in, man. I didn't know you had originals.
That's right.
Yeah, I found you on with Simple Man and Ice Ice Baby, and then there was 2 or 3 others, and then you had this tab that said originals, and I went, well, let me go listen to that. And now when I go to your YouTube page, I actually go to your originals to see what new stuff you've got out there. So, the covers hooked me. There's one I'm going to send out right now to my buddies who I know will watch this when I get off work later tonight. It's the All My Friends Are Heathens, but you did it for beards.
Yeah.
They have these giant beards, kind of like you. And I was going to share it with them. And I just didn't get a chance to do it this weekend. That's a parody. Did you like doing it?
Well, that's how my whole music career actually started, was doing funny parodies.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, but we're going back to the previous thing briefly. Cover. That's the only reason I do covers. I know the game. The game is you do covers in hopes that you draw people to your originals. So if I could do only originals, that's all I would do, to be honest. But the only reason I do covers is to make people hopefully listen to my originals. But anyway, yeah, parody music was all I wanted to do in the beginning. That's all I wanted to do was write parody music. I was inspired by people like Weird Al and Cletus T. Judd, people like that, who I actually just had Cletus T. Judd on my own podcast, the Marty Ray Project Chats. Have you listened to any of those?
I have. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about that here in a minute. I went through your website because you had one guy on that I would love to get on, Diamond Dallas Page, because I'm a wrestling nut.
Yeah.
And I'm an old school wrestler. I grew up in the 70s and 80s watching that stuff. So, yeah, I want to talk about that. Do you like podcasting?
Well, before I even did music, I did podcasts. I did podcasts called Mimnash Radio when podcasts first started, before they were popular and before they had any respect at all. I was doing a podcast, and told people, I called it Mimnash Radio because you couldn't get guests on saying it was a podcast because nobody knew what it was. And I called it Mimnash Radio so that I could get guests to come on, and I ended up getting some pretty big guests. I got Darius Rucker was one of the people on my podcast back then, and I actually had a podcast before Joe Rogan had a podcast.
Oh, really?
So, yeah,
and he's one of the King Daddies.
He is now. Yeah, I should have stuck with it, and I probably would be too. But nonetheless, it wasn't in the cards, I guess. I just didn't want to do it. Like, see, you're doing you're doing a solo host podcast, and me, I never wanted to do a solo host. I wanted to always have 2 hosts so that I could have somebody to talk to and play off of and things like that. But I should have actually continued that probably like you're doing now. But the co-host I had kept leaving. They kept switching, and it went through 3 co-hosts. And then eventually I just said, I'm done with it. I'm done.
When did you start the chats back up? Has it been during COVID? Has that been something have you just never stopped really?
No, I started it back up after I moved to Nashville. We're in the 23rd episode, I believe now. And I started before COVID. So started before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and there was a break there because the co-host I had originally was my friend Jim Best, who is a Country Music Hall of Fame steel guitar player and producer. And during COVID, of course, he's an older man. He's in his late 70s, so he wouldn't go around to anybody or anything like that. So it was just stalled for a while, and then I ended up changing. I told him, I said, I got to move forward with the podcast. I don't want it to end up like the old one and just be non-existent. So I moved forward with my buddy Chris Wallen, who is a hit songwriter. He's written Don't Blink by Kenny Chesney, Something to Be Proud Of by Montgomery Gentry. I'm Trying, Trace Atkins, just a bunch of songs he's written. But those are the number ones I believe that he had. But anyway, he and I became good friends. After he was on my podcast with Jim, we became good friends. And then I just proposed one day that he become the guest, the co-host of it. And that's how it went down. So now we're back at it.
Podcasting this is the time for podcasts. I think it's a great addition because, really, and you know it better than I do, but especially because you intentionally did not go with a big label and kind of went your own direction. What you do is not only talent driven, but it's a little personality driven. And don't
I think so. I just like to do anything that involves entertainment. I like to talk a lot. I can talk forever. So anything that has to do with entertainment, I'm for it. I thrive at it. I think that's what I was put here to do, to entertain people in one way or another.
How active are you in the creative? I know you, of course, the songwriting. You're sure that's what you do, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But on the video side of stuff, are you really engaged on making the videos for your music, or do you give that to somebody else?
No, I make all my own music videos. I have most of them are all me, but there's a few on there that I have an actual whole team with me. But I'm always directing my own music videos most of the time. I can't think of one time I didn't at least direct it, but a lot of times it's just me filming, directing, editing, coloring, everything. To be honest with you, and I hate doing that. I don't want to do that, but you got to, it takes money to not do that. So.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Answered the question. And when it comes to the music side or the film side, because you've also been active a little bit in some movies, do you like the if you could make the living you want at of anything that you do, would it be the music, the video side of things, the podcasting, or would you just keep doing what you're doing and make the money you want to make?
You mean if I had to, if
yeah.
God forced me to choose one?
yeah. That great hypothetical question that nobody can answer.
He stepped down here in front of me and said, "Choose one or else."
Yeah.
And at this point, to be honest with you, I would choose acting. I would do that. That's a lot easier to me, and it's a lot funner because you get paid up front. You get paid, at the base rate that I get when I do like a co-star rate or something like that, a show with one line or like a TV show or something like that. I get $1,000 a day. So you get that kind of money, and then they give you a trailer. They pay for you to get there. And that's the low end of the spectrum of when you actually have speaking lines. That's the lowest end of it, and it goes up from there. So to be honest with you, if he asked me that, he said, I will make you do. I will allow you to do anything, and I'll bless you in it. Right now, you have to choose. I would choose that, to be honest. If he gave me the option. But I would never want to not do music. But of course, it's hypothetical.
Yeah.
So for financial reasons, I would choose acting because music is tough.
What you could do though is you make all your money at the acting stuff, and then you can finance your own music career. That's the best of both worlds, right there.
God didn't say that.
No, I know. You're changing the hypothetical, man.
You can't change the hypothetical. He said you can pick one. So you got to pick one or not. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Course,
God's right.
Me,
God's shaking his head right now.
Yeah, he's like, well, they hypothetically talking about me.
Yeah.
No, but my point is, I will always be doing music and acting forever. Yeah. That's what I'll always be doing.
A friend of mine, I interviewed him several times. He's had some smaller roles in like some Avenger movies, a movie with Harrison Ford, a couple of the Hunger Games. That's what it is. But
I'm the one that plays the Hunger Games. That's what I play every day.
I do the buffet games. Is what I like. Well, no, he talked about that he was in the last Avengers movie, and he was going to be a mailman at the very end when they show Captain America dancing with his bride. And he went to the movie, and he got to, and he's been in enough now that he's got some contacts, and he gets really small roles, but he loves doing it. But at the very end, they panned to the camera where he's dancing, and it was supposed to look down this street from the 1950s, and he was going to be the mailman. And he said they got right to literally 1/10 of a second before he would step in the screen in the shot, and they cut it. He missed the cut. He goes, "Man, I went with all these expectations, and next thing you know, I wasn't in the movie."
That's the worst. I did a show called Zoo on CBS, and they paid me to come down there, and I had about 5 lines in there. Those 5 lines made it in the show. Then they paid me to come all the way back a second time. That was in New Orleans, and I was in Memphis. And I came all the way back and filmed a final scene that they were going to use as the final scene of that season. And had they used that, I would have probably been brought back because of the nature of the scene, brought back to be a reoccurring character on the season 2. Well, then when I watched season 1, at the very end, they had changed the ending So I was like, oh man, but I still got paid to do it.
Right.
So, but it sucked because I thought I might be getting a recurring character role in season 2. But it is what it is.
Have you ever been tempted to shave your beard ever?
Every time I eat. Every time I eat
That's a
something, I'm
great
like,
answer.
man, I got to get rid of this. This is annoying.
I'm finding stuff from yesterday. What the heck?
Yeah, this is not good. I got to watch this thing daily. You mean to tell me?
Hey, so, COVID hit, and I think I told you before you came on, I've been to, I think, 3 of your online concerts, 3 or 4, and I love them. And first of all, do you like doing them? Has it been a good way to still get scratch the entertainment bug plus make a little money? A lot of musicians have tried that. I noticed they're not doing them as much, but talk a little bit on how COVID has changed that part of your world, and is it going to come back in your world where you live at all?
Well, I'm different than other musicians in that my whole career started online. So it didn't really shake me as much as other people. It did keep me from being able to do live shows, which hurt, but I didn't do a ton of live shows anyway.
Hmm.
I did mainly private shows. So, and I did one private show during COVID that somebody paid me to do at their house or whatever. So I didn't, but I haven't had as many opportunities come up for even private shows. So that definitely hurt. But and also I never did ever do live concerts in full scale like that until COVID. So that was actually a blessing to me, was to find the connection because of COVID. My buddy Jeremy Bird, who is the one that helps us put those concerts on, he has Bird Productions, BYRD Productions, and he started a new network called Impulse Media or something like that. It's coming soon. But anyway, because of COVID, it's made him shift, because he owns a company called Pixelflex that provides the lighting and the stage backdrops for all these huge artists like Luke Bryan and people like that. So then, because that shut down, he shifted into doing these live stream concerts, and he has these super nice cameras, and he's got 5, 6, 7 of them, and he sets it up, has a great sound with it and all that. And he called me, and we hadn't spoken in years. He called me and he's like, I'd love to get you in one of these concerts. And I did one, and I fell in love with it. I loved how it sounded so good. It looked good. Fans seemed to love it. So it was a blessing for me in that regard, that I never would have been able to do that. I would have never tried to get the cameras together or tried to figure out the semantics in creating that, and my set or the restream, all that stuff, where I could stream a concert from all my social medias at the same time. So it definitely, in that regard, it actually helped me. And I've been blessed, even in times of uncertainty, by God in many ways through COVID. And I know that sounds weird and funny, but I hate the fact of how many people, and I'm not saying I hadn't taken a hit, but I haven't lost my home.
Yeah.
I haven't lost my cars. I've never missed a meal. As you can tell by looking at my belly, I ain't missed no meals. And
are you going to keep doing those concerts after, let's say everything goes back to air quote normal? Those concerts, I talk to businesses, and they say they're going to keep doing some of the things they've learned during COVID, even when business comes back. Are you going to keep doing these online concerts the way you discovered them moving forward? I mean, is that going to be part of what you do and offer now?
I think I'll always do that at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah, as long as even at a show, if it's a public show at this point in my life, I look at it like there's no reason that, even if it's a public show at a venue, if they have the cameras, or I can figure out how to get the camera set up and everything beforehand, then every show I do will be like that.
Oh,
Even if
wow.
there's people in person, that's my goal. Because I actually was about to do one where, and this is still on the block to do, is to do one and have people, because people are actually able to come to shows now in this area, but in certain amounts. So I'm actually getting ready to try to plan a show where it's live in person and online.
Oh, that's
So
cool. Yeah, we just had a couple at the ball field, the lookouts, the baseball field here in Chattanooga. We've had two where you can have, um, like a third of the capacity, and you have these social distancing things in place. So, yeah, that's coming back a little slowly, but that's fine. A little bit about the creative process, because my commitment on this is I know you're busy. I'm not going to keep you super long, but and I asked you this last time, but we always have new people that tune in. Are you the kind of person that sets aside time to write, or do you carry notebooks everywhere you go and write down ideas as you go?
I have random melodies, lines, music, sounds that come to my mind throughout the day, and I will put those in my voice memos. I'll just record whatever I have in my brain at that moment, and then if it lives with me long enough for me to get home, then I will write it. That I'll start writing it that night. But sometimes it doesn't live with me that day, but then it'll come back. I'll start searching through those and just looking at old stuff, saying, I want to see what kind of songs I was into. I started writing, or melodies or whatever. And I'll scroll through some of those, and then it'll hit me again. And then I'll be sitting down at the time in my office, and I'll go and write the song and finish it that way. Sometimes it starts with a melody. Sometimes it starts with music. Sometimes with just lyrics. So it's
Have you
always
ever
different.
have you ever been, and I asked this because I've written stuff, but I've written like poetry and stuff down the past. Do you ever get an idea from watching something else, like you'll be watching your kids or your wife or your friends or something else in life, and an idea comes to you, and you just jot down the idea?
Well, that's where Bare Feet came from. That song you just mentioned earlier. I was walking. I was at my shop back then. I wasn't even doing music professionally at the time when I wrote that. That was written years and years ago. And I was walking barefoot from my shop, concrete shop floor, and I walked out to the gravel, and then I walked to the grass, and then into the stepped in some mud. So I was like, well, isn't it funny how you start to really feel? I just said in my head, I said, there's something about having your bare feet on, ain't it? And then I
Oh,
was like, and then I go, there's something about having your bare feet on, with the grass and the mud and the sand in your toe. And then that's the song built from there. That was it.
well, I got to be honest. I was about to go get me something to drink and some popcorn and just let you take off for a second, Dave. Hey, you said a shop. What did you do before you started doing this?
I actually was a tow truck driver. I ran my dad's tow truck company in West Memphis. So he had one where I was born in Memphis, Tennessee, raised in Blytheville, Arkansas. My dad's always had a record service, towing service, a mechanic shop, body shop, you name it. He's had it. He's done it. He's done anything that has to do with cars. He's done it, and he still has the mechanic shop to this day. But he opened a branch of his towing company up for AAA because they asked him to. They said they needed some help in West Memphis. Was he willing to open one up? And against all my spirit, I did not want to do that. But he was trying to do it himself. Go work all day in Blytheville and drive to West Memphis at night and try to run that at night. And I was trying my best to not have to do it. And I just couldn't let him just keep wearing his body down. And so I said, Daddy, I'll just run it till you find somebody. And he found somebody. They didn't work out. So I had to go back to doing it. And eventually I just said, well, I'm just going to move my family to Memphis and be done with it. And that's what I'll do. And so I did that for many years until one day God blessed me with the ability not to have to do it. And I don't regret any of that though. There was a lot of good that came from that. A lot of people I met, a lot of people that I became friends with. And And a lot of time, I mean, there's a lot of good times then, so I don't regret any of it.
Are you glad? Well, and two, I mean, I would imagine as you write songs, that's when you write stuff, when you're creative, you draw from your past and your history and your experiences and the characters and the people you meet, and that probably contributes a lot of it. Working hard like that, that probably comes into play a lot when you're writing or acting or doing something. You have that to draw from, I would think.
I think so for the most part, but I can also write a song. I love to write songs for companies. That's actually a big goal always for me, is to write songs for companies. Like I just recently wrote a song for Garmin. You know who Garmin is,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Just recently wrote a song for their podcast. It's actually me on their podcast called Behind the Chart Plotter. It's me singing on their intro and outro of their podcast. They paid me to write a song for them, and so I love doing that. And I wrote a song just recently for a guy named Slobby Robbie, who was on my podcast, and he has a Netflix show. I told him I was going to write a song for his next season, and I did it, and he loved it. So he said that it was going to be the intro song to his show. So we'll see.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very cool. Hey, are you, and I know a little bit on why you didn't go with the big labels, because you kind of are self-made when it comes to social media. That's been a good road. At least that's what you said when we talked the first time. You're happy you went that direction, but it's not always the easiest road. But is it getting easier now because of online keeps, like, especially during COVID, has boomed?
It never gets easier for me. So I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't. Algorithms are never easy for independent artists, and probably never will be. I don't know. I pray someday that it is easy for me, but maybe it's not supposed to be.
Well, is it easier for people to find you? I guess that's what I meant. As far as sharing stuff with your growth, you used to be 40, 50 years ago. We only heard as the consumer what really the record labels wanted us to hear. Right now, I can stop this conversation. I can go listen to you as much as I want to today. So that's a little, that's different than it was when I grew up.
In that regard, sure, it's easier for people to find you if you make enough splash for the algorithm to show you to that person, because there is, even though it's easier for people to find you now, if the algorithm chooses to let, or if God wants people to be found, it's like there is a plethora of people posting videos of their talents or their craft every hour. Just millions and millions. Back then, it was very few and far between. There were gatekeepers, but those gatekeepers still found a few people. Now it's way better now, in my opinion. I never would have been discovered. I never would have had anything had it not been for internet. So I'm thankful for it. But even me, like, somebody asked, what's a secret? I don't have a secret to how to make it online. I wish I did, because if I did, I'd still be using it and be getting bigger and bigger. But I don't have a secret. I just know that I put out videos, and I sing from the heart, and God breathes breath into it, and it goes where it needs to go. Sometimes videos do well, sometimes they don't.
Have you been surprised by one you put out that you thought, I don't really like that one as much, but took off online, or one that you thought was going to take off, it didn't? Have you had those kind of surprises?
Well, the Ice Ice Baby was that way. If you look at the original post of Ice Ice Baby, which I don't even think's up anymore, the original post was on my Facebook profile, not my page. And because at the time I didn't even use my Facebook page at all, because it got no love. And I posted that video at like 3:00 in the morning or something. And the description said, I haven't posted a video in a while, and I want to be consistent, something like that. And I don't know if anybody will like this or not. This is an old song. This is the way I've been doing it. And I put that out there. That was the description. Next thing you know, it had 4 or 5 million views right then in a day. And it just took off from there. And that video altogether, every post that's been posted with that video and it's probably well over 200 million views altogether.
It's one of the ones that I found. Like I said, Simple Man, and then I found Ice Ice Baby, and that's when I dove into your channel. Hey, can you give me about 3 or 4 more minutes? We'll be done, man, because I know you're in the middle of a day. Give me about 3 or 4 more minutes. Hobbies. Last time I talked to you, do you do anything outside of the creative field as hobbies? Do you have anything else you like to do, or are you just strictly family and then just do this stuff because it is, like it's creative?
Well,
do you still tow trucks around?
No, heck no. Thank God I don't have to do that anymore. But I did write a song called Tow Truck Driver on my first album.
Oh, that's cool.
But anyway, music has always kind of been a hobby for me anyway. So just doing music, playing music, recording music, that's already a hobby to me. Anyway, it's an expensive hobby, but it's a hobby. But I used to fish a lot, and I used to get to do that a lot. I used to fish quite frequently, actually. I would fish probably every day, used to, but I don't get to do that anymore. Hadn't fished in a long time. Hadn't hunted in a long time. Hadn't played basketball because I'm too fat.
Well, we need to get you back out fishing again, man. Fishing's good for the soul every now and then.
You know what I like to do as a hobby? I like to eat, and that's why I'm so fat. And,
well, you know what I used to do? Take you a bag of Doritos and go fishing. You can kill two hobbies with one stone right there. That's how I used to fish. Go ahead.
I'll let you take me fishing next time we meet up.
Man, anytime you come to Chattanooga, there are some great fishing holes around here. Hey, what do you listen to? What are you listening to? Do you have something that you kind of default, a certain type of music that you listen to, or are you all over the board as far as types?
It depends on the day, but most of the time it'll be something. If it's not something that I'm working on, one of my own songs, if it's not something I'm working on getting mixed, so I'll listen to it to see what I need to change in the mix. So when we go to mixing, I can tell them what I want changed. If it's not something like that, then it'll be gospel music like Rance Allen, Kirk Franklin, these type of people. Ty Tribbett. I like those type of people. That's kind of where I go more of. But I listen to Al Green. I listen to some country every now. Keith Whitley. I have to put some Keith Whitley on every now. I go through phases, but I always tend to go back to gospel music. I love Mahalia Jackson, Shirley Caesar. I love those people. That's the stuff that really moves me, and so I listen to that more than anything else. But to be honest, I don't listen to music too terribly much anymore, except my own, and that's because I'm usually listening to either a book on Audible or a podcast or talk radio or something like that. I think the reason is because I don't want to be inspired by anybody anymore. I know it sounds bad, but I don't want to be inspired by anybody in my writing because I don't want people to think that I'm stealing from someone else musically. So I don't want to, I won't listen to hardly any new music at all because I don't want anybody to ever be able to say, well, you stole that from that guy or whatever. And even if they say it, I can say, I've never even heard that song and then not lie. So,
yeah. Last three things. One is mashups. You do some mashups on your YouTube channel. And I'll be honest, this is how bad I am, I guess, at listening to music. I didn't know there was such a thing as mashups until I started listening to your songs and realized that people put one song and just, transition into the other. Are those your ideas, or do people send you ideas that you should do? Because they're pretty cool. I never even knew of them until I saw you do them.
It's always just comes to my head. It always feels, it just comes to my head somehow when I'm playing around with one of the songs. I'll just start singing another one.
Yeah.
But I can kind of sing any song I can sing any song and make it fit however I'm playing it. That's kind of how, because I'm not that good at guitar, so I have to be able to do that because I can't play it like they play it. So,
Hey, tell everybody about that hat you have on, because you call your fans aren't just fans, are they?
No, they're projectors, just like me. Well, anybody's a projector that's out here not living the normal life that they were trained to live and just doing what they were told to do. They're doing their own projecting. You know, they're a projector for themselves and their creations, and they're going after it. Even if you have to work a normal job, but you still go after that thing you love, that passion, that fire. You have a goal and aspirations to do something bigger than what you're doing now. You're a projector. That's what that means. So
That's very cool.
yeah, and
Very
there's
cool.
merch. You can get merch, any merch, Marty Ray Project merch, projector merch. You can get it on my website, martyrayproject.com.
Well, the
And
link is in the description here too.
nice.
That's where you can also hear your chats and get your tweets. That's where you can get all things Marty Ray, right?
That's right. Yeah. And then please, if you listen to podcasts, and I know you do if you're listening to this, go and subscribe or follow or rate and review whatever our podcast, the Marty Ray Project chats. We've had some cool guests on.
Well, that's you, man. This is almost a perfect segue. It's like we know what we're doing. I was going to ask who you is there people you have coming on, or is there certain guests you want to come on for your chats?
Well, there's tons of people I have on my list that I want to come on.
Well, let's put a little pressure on them. Who you got out there? You want?
Well, I would love to have Garth Brooks come on the show.
There you go, Garth. I'm sure Garth will tune into this thing.
Yeah, he's watching. Garth, come on now.
Come on, man.
I want to. There's a lot of people on my list. I actually called Al Green's church. He has a church in Memphis. I called his church trying to get him to do a video interview with the Martyr Project chat. So that'd be a dream come true because he's my favorite singer in the secular type / gospel world. But we've had Dina Carter on. We just had Dina Carter on. We had Neil McCoy, DDP, Herb Dean from UFC, Mark Hunt, UFC fighter.
So real quick though, just how do you get? I mean, are you a UFC fan and an old school wrestling fan, and you just reached out? Is that why you had him on? Is that interest? Is that what you like?
I used to be a big WWF fan, not so much WWE. I had stopped watching it by the time it became WWE. But DDP, yeah, I had his T-shirt and I had his T-shirt in my closet and had Stone Cold T-shirt. I'd love to have Stone Cold on someday.
That would be a fun interview, Stone Cold.
Bill Goldberg, you know, he actually follows me on Twitter for some reason. I don't know why.
Hey, I think Bill Goldberg had one of the best wrestling entrances of all time.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Him and DDP. Actually, DDP's was good. The bang.
Oh yeah.
The bang. Anyway.
We ought to do a wrestling podcast one day. I got a buddy that's into pro wrestling up here. I'll bring him on, Gunnar Miller. We ought to do a wrestling podcast. That'd be fun.
Yeah, as long as we talk about the old school wrestling, because I wouldn't know nothing about the new.
I don't know anything's happened in the last 10 years, 15 years. Nothing.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Nothing.
But yeah, UFC, I'm a fan of UFC, and I don't watch it religiously, but I used to. I used to watch every pay-per-view, but I don't now. But a couple of my friends are UFC fighters now. Like, and have used my music, like Derek Lewis, who's a heavyweight. He fought for the heavyweight championship at Madison Square Garden, and he walked out to my song "Haunted," my original song "Haunted," in the Madison Square Garden, and a lot of people heard that in the UFC. I was on the front row of that UFC pay-per-view event, and he came up and gave me a hug right there, right before he walked into the octagon.
Oh, that's cool.
So then everybody was looking like, well, who is this guy? Who's this big bearded fella? And after that, it kind of started. I started gaining other music fans that were in UFC. So Donald Cerrone, Cowboy Cerrone, actually used my song "Bleed" in one of his promos when he was fighting Conor McGregor. So there's been a few of those, and I have a song now that I'm going to be pitching to a few fighters, and hopefully they'll use them. And as far as wrestling goes, the modern wrestling, Braun Strowman is actually a friend of mine, and we did some stuff together. I've written a song for him that he may or may not use. I don't know. He's heard it. He loves it. And we'll see how it goes. But he's a really cool fella.
I tell you, one of the other songs I didn't say about, but you have a song called Mistakes. It's pretty good. I think that's the name of it. Is it Mistakes? Yeah. I've listened to that twice, and that song's full of emotion too. So I want to make sure I'm throwing as many of your original titles out there so people will, when they go to YouTube to find you, they listen to your covers, but they also go find some of your originals, because that's the stuff I like listening to now.
I appreciate that, man. That means the world.
All right, listen, we'll wrap it up. If you'll do me one favor, do you remember a minute ago when you just did that little ditty with the bare feet on?
Yeah.
Can you do it one more time before we get out of here?
Sure. There's something about having your bare feet on, with the grass and the sand and the mud in your toe, feeling where you're walking and walking real slow. There's something about having your bare feet on.
Man, I appreciate it. I know you're super busy. I'll share your stuff as much as possible. I hope one day you sign the big deal with Spotify. Oh, I lost Marty Ray right there at the very end. That's okay. He wrapped it up for us singing. Go check out his links are in this description to his website, his Facebook page, and YouTube. And I'll put this out on my podcast page where you can find us on Apple as well, During the Break podcast. And I have another podcast called Dayfire Podcast, where me and the host Dawson Wheeler talk about all things in the great outdoors, adventures from folks around the country doing great things. Go check that out, dayfirepodcast.com. Thanks to my buddy Dan Meninger, Granite Garage Floors of Chattanooga, for sponsoring. 423-592-3131 for Granite Garage Floors. Marty Ray, if you're getting to watch this, if you're still out there, thank you, buddy. I really appreciate it. Bye.